Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Gurudev, and all glories to Samud Vaishnava devotees, and all glories to Her Grace, Mother VRAJALILA Devi Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Good morning, Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
You're welcome.
Wow, so nice to see everyone. Hari Hari. Jai, Salita Prabhu.
I haven't seen you for years, Mother.
Yes, it seems like it's Saha Prabhu.
Yeah.
And we're close. I see Natalia. I see Salika Prabhu. I see Kusha Prabhu. Whoa, you're bringing us the creation, and you're here. I can see all the creation. Sunita Devi, Lauren. So nice to see you here, Lauren. Yashoda, Mother Yashoda, Loka, Mother Loka, Rajdaruni, Anandin Hanam, Anandin Hanam, Wow. Hare
Yeah,
Chakra Prabhu.
and I didn't need another. Yeah.
Anandini Nanak. Thank you. And of course, His Grace Sahadev Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So, dear devotees, you already know, we need not make any introduction about our speaker today. This is Mother VRAJALILA, our mother. And I think we did not have, yeah, we had you last month, right? I believe we had you last month. Yes.
Yeah,
But,
I try to come every month.
yeah, but it seems to be like years, just like Lord Chaitanya said, a moment appears to be like 12 years or more.
Oh. Hari, hari.
Devotees, we are very much fortunate. We have a Grace here with us coming to share her love, wisdom, and knowledge about the Srimad Bhagavatam with us today. So, Mother, without further ado, I'll put the verse on the screen and then you will take it over from here. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchavam Narottamam Devam Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Muhurdayat Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhagavati Naishtake. So we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 5, Text 23. Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Text 23, Mahatastva Vikurvan. Okay, let's do this again. Mahatastu Vikurvanad Raja Sattvo Paribmithitat Tamas Pradhanas Twava Havad Dravya Gyana Kriyat Makaha. Word for word translation, Mahata of the Mahatattva, 2, but Vikurvanat, being transformed. Let's see, being transformed. Rajaha, the material mode of passion. Sattva, the mode of goodness. Upabrim hitat, because of being increased. Tamaha, the mode of darkness. Pradanaha, being prominent. 12, but. Abhavat, took place. Dravya, matter. Jnana, material knowledge. Kriya, atmakaha, predominantly material activities. Srila Prabhupada's translation. Material activities are caused by the Mahatattva being agitated. At first, there is transformation of the modes of goodness and passion, and later, due to the modes of ignorance, matter, its knowledge, and different activities of material knowledge came into play. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Material creations of every description are more or less due to the development of the mode of passion, rajas. The Mahatattva is the principle of material creation, and when it is agitated by the will of the Supreme, at first, the modes of passion and goodness are prominent, and afterwards, the mode of passion being generated in due course by material activities of different varieties becomes prominent, and the living entities are thus involved more and more in ignorance. Brahma is the representation of the mode of passion, and Vishnu is the representation of the mode of goodness, while the mode of ignorance is represented by Lord Shiva, the father of material activities. Material nature is called the mother, and the initiator for materialistic life is the father, Lord Shiva. All material creation by the living entities is therefore initiated by the mode of passion. With the advancement of the duration of life in a particular millennium, the different modes act by gradual development. In the, and this is very rare in Srila Prabhupada's books anyway, such age of Kali, when the mode of passion is more prominent, material activities of different varieties in the name of advancement of human civilization take place, and the living entities become more and more involved in forgetting their real identity, the spiritual nature. By a slight cultivation of the modes of goodness, a glimpse of spiritual nature is perceived. But due to the prominence of the mode of passion, the mode of goodness becomes adulterated. Therefore, one cannot transcend the limits of the material modes, and therefore, realization of the Lord, who is always transcendental to the modes of material nature, becomes very difficult for the living entities, even though prominently situated in the mode of goodness through cultivation of the various methods. In other words, the gross matters are adibhutam, their maintenance is adidaiva, and the initiator of material activities is called adhyatma. In the material world, these three principles act as prominent features, namely as raw materials, its regular supplies, and its use in different varieties of material creation for sense enjoyment by the bewildered entities. Om Ganati Mirandasya Ganagana Shalakaya Chakshurangalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shritatmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Namine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Okay, so the translation again, and I have my book here, so I'll just read. Okay, is material activities are caused by the Mahatattvas being agitated. At first, there is transformation of the mode of goodness and passion, and later, due to the mode of ignorance, matter, its knowledge, and different activities of material knowledge comes into play. Hari Hari. Thank you, Sahaprabhu. So when I was looking at this this chapter, which is called The Cause of All Causes, which is, of course, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But I couldn't help thinking of that pastime in the Bhagavatam. It's in the 10th canto of the SRIMAD Bhagavatam. And Krishna is playing with the gopis. The supreme cause of all causes is playing with the gopis. And the gopis, this is in one of the pastimes where the Lord is playing, splashing and having water sports. However, in that part of the pastime, the gopis are referring to Krishna as their hero. Krishna is their hero. And when I read this chapter, I was thinking, oh my gosh, our hero, our real hero, as the gopis know and understand, is only Krishna. Because look at what he does. Look at, I mean, just as we're reading this chapter, we can begin to get a little glimpse of the personality of Godhead, and what he does is just incredible. It's amazing. I mean, I cannot understand, for sure I cannot understand. However, Srila Prabhupada is so very kind. He's so kind. Our spiritual masters are so kind. They have given their time to study Srila Prabhupada's books, and by their mercy, we get a chance to hear, and we hear from them, and we hear from them in a way where we can get a little, as I said earlier, a little understanding of what Srila Prabhupada is writing in his books. This is only possible by the mercy of those devotees that have studied Srila Prabhupada's books, that have given their lives, and that have passed this information, passed this knowledge down to us. This is the system of receiving knowledge. The knowledge is passed down from Krishna himself all the way down to those personalities like our spiritual masters, and even the spiritual master passed that knowledge down to others. And so even though I personally may not be qualified in any way to speak about Krishna's creation, certainly my spiritual master, revered some of us here on this call, His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Swami, somehow has given me a little bit of a window to look into this knowledge of the creation that's given to us by Srila Prabhupada. So I'm so grateful to our spiritual master. So having said this, one of the things about understanding heroes, many times in this material world, everybody's like looking for a hero. They're looking for someone to worship, right? Everyone. When I think of hero worship, I think a little bit of people that like soccer. And I'm not speaking about anybody on this call, but there are many people that love soccer, or they love cricket, right? Or there's so many different sports nowadays that we can see. Ice skating, skating. There's so many people that love these sports, and they all look for a hero, one hero, the guy that's gonna be gonna kick the ball, right? He's gonna kick the ball, and the goalie's gonna miss it, and somehow or other, everybody's gonna like, yeah, especially if that's their hero. And similarly, recently I was reading about this ice skater, and she had done like this amazing feat of being on the ice and jumping like around, doing this twirl twice, and on the third time she just fell, right? And she's famous, and everybody was just so disturbed because she had fallen on this third spin. So like this, or when I was in Mumbai, Srila Ranat Maharaj gives so many examples of the devotees that love cricket, right? Everybody loves cricket. And so they have a hero that they're waiting for, that they're looking to win. And like this, we are all looking for some hero in our lives, whether it's the relationships that we find ourselves attracted to, or whether it's some person that's, in the media, or some person that's somehow or other, we have made that person famous in our eyes. However, there's no one that's more famous than Krishna. And this is what we're hearing in these verses. Krishna is creating all the material universes. Krishna is arranging everything for us, those persons that are living in the material world, to develop some attraction for the Lord, some way or other. Krishna, in his divine understanding, is making everything possible for us. And this is what we're hearing in this verse. We're hearing about the Mahatattva, and we're hearing, about the different modes of material nature. And we're hearing about those personalities that are in charge of the different modes of material nature, those persons that are caregivers, caretakers of the modes of material nature. And we're also hearing about so-called material advancement and how that impacts our lives to help us to forget the Lord. All of the things that we think are advancement in this material life, in this material world, especially on our planet. And then we're also hearing about Adibhutam and Adidaivam and Adhyatmam. So all of this we're hearing in this one verse. So we're going to take a little minute to say a little something about these different points. Like when I read this verse, I thought, well, first of all, what's the Mahatattva? What's the Mahatattva? So if there's anybody on this call, which I know there is, I see Lauren here. And I know that there's some other devotees here that are just now starting to read the Srimad Bhagavatam or starting to read the Bhagavad Gita, may not have a clue of what the Mahatattva is. And for me, even though I might be able to maybe share from what I've read, share from what I've heard Srila Prabhupada say, my spiritual masters say, I can't really say that I fully comprehend what this Mahatattva is, because Krishna is inconceivable. The things that he does is beyond our understanding, beyond our perception. My spiritual master used to say sometimes when he would talk about all the different challenges that people face in the world, he used to, look at us and he would say, yeah, different computations and permutations of the Mahatattva. And he would laugh and we would like understand, yeah, it's just, conglomerate of the different things in the world that disturbs our mind, that Krishna has put together by his amazing potency. So Srila Prabhupada explains that Krishna himself is not really engaged in any of these activities that we're going to hear about. Krishna himself is always enjoying with his associates. He's always having pastimes with his associates. And if we want to know more about that part of Krishna, who that Krishna is, then we need to read Krishna book. Prabhupada recommends that we read Krishna book. And if we read the Krishna book, we will get this amazing, amazing entrance into this world of transcendence where Krishna is having activities, so many activities with all his friends and all his associates. And we can just dive into those transcendental activities and get this connection, this real connection with the Lord. So I recommend, this is the first part of understanding these verses. My recommendation is a program that I myself with some other devotees we're doing. It's reading Krishna book only 4 pages every day. 4 pages of the Krishna book. And every day we just write whatever our realization may have been from reading those 4 pages. That way we start making a connection with the Lord. And we know that there's so many different ways that Srila Prabhupada has inspired devotees to hear about the Supreme Lord. We know, I see Salika Prabhu here, and he is one of the instructors in the Bhakti Vaibhava teachings. This is what Srila Prabhupada recommended in terms of studying his books and teaching what we study. So Salika Prabhu, he's one of the teachers. And Chaitanya Prabhu, he's one of those persons that is really encouraging people to really try to, the devotees, especially in West Africa, to take shelter of Srila Prabhupada's books. I know Varaha Prabhu, he's always engaged in assisting others to not only study Srila Prabhupada's books, but to help in different activities that bring people closer to Krishna. Now, why do we do this? Why do we spend time like this, trying to read these books? And why do we spend time trying to understand who Krishna is? Because by hearing Krishna's activities, by hearing what Krishna is doing, by hearing how Krishna is engaging in pastimes with his friends, with his family, by hearing who Krishna is, how he took birth, why he took birth, then we'll begin to understand a little bit about why we don't really belong here, why this place that we're in is not really our home. And this is the one sure way that we can start understanding that, simply by reading about Krishna, reading about the sages, how they try to understand about the Supreme Lord. So here in this part of the verse, the Mahatattva, if we read Srila Prabhupada's 3rd canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we have many scholars here, so I'm just going to briefly share something from the Srimad Bhagavatam, from the 3rd canto. The 3rd canto, Vidura, one of Krishna's dear associates, is hearing from Maitreya. Just like when we read Srila Prabhupada's books, we're actually hearing about these personalities that are having discourses, and they're speaking pastimes that are realized, that many of them have understood in their hearts, in the core of their hearts. And they're sharing this, and Vyasadeva is writing some of these pastimes for us to understand. Most of these pastimes are conversations. So this conversation between Maitreya and Vidura explains to us about this Mahatattva. And yeah, thank you. So the Mahatattva is the via medium between pure spirit and material existence. So I think that's in the fifth, if we go to Bhagavatam 5, the fifth chapter, Saha, I think this is explained there. And I'm just going to spend a little time on this because it's important for us to hear. Oh, okay. If you have, yeah, Bhagavatam 5 explains what the Mahatattva is. Bhagavatam 5:27, if you will, please. You gonna pull that up, Saha, or? This is very, very, this information is one of the technical aspects of.
Did you say 5:27?
3:5:27.
5:27.
Yeah, 3:5:27. This is to help us to understand the technical aspect of the Lord. You know, usually we hear about creation and we hear, well, God created everything, but we don't always hear how God created everything. Well, how did he do that? And why did he even do that? Why did he create this material world? And so this, in this conversation between these two great personalities, if you can go to text 27, it's explained here about this Mahatattva that we're hearing about. So influenced by the interactions of eternal time. So time is very important in understanding the Lord's creation. The sum total of matter, the sum total of material existence, called the Mahatattva, became manifested. And in this Mahatattva, the unalloyed goodness, the Supreme Lord, sowed the seeds of universal manifestation out of his own body. Now let's hear a little bit about what Srila Prabhupada says about this. So if we can go down to the purport. So Srila Prabhupada, he breaks this down a little for us to get a little bit of an understanding of that translation. Prabhupada says, in due course of time, the impregnated material energy was manifested first as the total material ingredients. Everything takes its own time to fructify, and therefore the word kala koditat, influenced by time, is used herein. So here, this is the explanation of the Mahatattva. The Mahatattva is the total consciousness, the total consciousness, because a portion of it is represented in everyone as the intellect. The Mahatattva is directly connected with the supreme consciousness of the supreme being, but still it appears as matter. The Mahatattva, or shadow of pure consciousness, is the germinating place of all creation. It is pure goodness with the slight addition of the material mode of passion, and therefore activity is generated from this point. So, okay, Taha, thank you so much. So this Mahatattva, this great personality that we read in the Bhagavatam, he's inquiring, like, tell me about that. Explain to me, what is this Mahatattva? And how did this even come into being? And so Maitreya is explaining to him. And just like Srila Prabhupada has taken the time to write his purports to explain to us what is this Mahatattva. Now, the interesting thing that came up for me as I was reading about the Mahatattva, I was like, well, why do we even need to know about that? Like, how is that important? What does that have to do with me knowing about, God? And you know, I mean, what is the relevancy in my life? And so Srila Prabhupada explains that this Mahatattva, understanding Krishna's whole creation, the whole creation, how Krishna created everything, even though he's not in any way involved in it, he creates it. And I heard some of Sahadev's class yesterday, which was quite amazing, because I guess the speaker didn't show up. And I went on YouTube just to hear that speaker and what they were sharing about creation, because creation is something we all want to know, right? So I was like very eager to hear, oh yeah, somebody's going to speak about creation. Beautiful. And then it was Sahadev, because whatever happened with that speaker. And Sahadev Prabhu, it was just so beautiful, because he had internalized that understanding of what of the creation. And he spoke so eloquently and so beautifully from the realization of memory about the creation of the Lord. And I was just reflecting on that, you know, like I paused, I reflected, and I thought, Sahadev must have really prayed before he gave that class to be able to share all the knowledge that he shared about the creation, because it's not simple to understand the creation. And I heard at the end, I came in a little bit at the end, and Salika Prabhu was appreciating him and saying, you know, thank you so much for spontaneously speaking about the creation. So I mentioned this just to say, please listen to the class if you want to know more about the creation from yesterday, because that class is now going to bring you to what Srila Prabhupada is talking about today. Sahadev gave all the intricacies of how the Lord created and all the different Vishnu forms. And he was just so beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Sahaprabhu. I will go back and listen to that class again. And then now we're hearing, okay, so the Vishnus are doing their thing. Karnadaksha Vishnu, now he breathed, and here comes, we're gonna hear now about, oh wow, that when he glances, all this material energy is created. And Prabhupada gives us scientific example, scientific understanding of this entire process. And so now this part of the process is to help us to understand our entanglement, and how are we entangled in this creation, this Mahatattva aspect of the Lord's creation. And as I was sharing earlier, what is the purpose for us understanding this? Mainly so that we can internalize this very beautiful verse of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is the third verse of the Shashtakam prayer. This verse says, Chanadapi Sahishana Tarorapi. You want to pull that verse up? Tarorapi Sahishanam Amani Namani Dena Kirtaniyat Sadahari. Just so everyone can get a glimpse of this verse. Because this verse is a verse for us to, just like we carry things around with us, this is a verse for us to carry around with us, especially when it comes to trying to enter into the Lord's creation, into really not just hearing it and parroting it, not just speaking it from what we read. It's to understand it inside, internally, at the core of our hearts. How do we, at the core of our hearts, understand a little bit of the magnitude of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Prabhupada, did you find that, Saha? Okay, so this is a beautiful verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Trinadapi Sahishan, Trinadapi Sahishana, Tarori Vasahishana, Amani Namani Deyana, Kirtaniya Sadahari. And the translation: one who thinks himself lower than the grass, who is more tolerant than a tree, and who does not expect personal honor, yet is always prepared to give all respect to others, can very easily always chant the Hare Krishna, the holy name of the Lord. So Prabhupada's purport just to help us to understand that verse, the grass is specifically mentioned in this verse because everyone tramples upon it, yet the grass never protests. This example indicates that a spiritual master or leader should not be proud of his position, being always humbler than an ordinary man. He should go on preaching the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Thank you, Prabhu. So this is a verse to wear around our necks, to carry with us always in our hearts, because it's only by developing this humility that we can begin to get some entrance into the creation of the Lord. Now, can we develop this humility on our own? Is that possible? No, not really. And that's what's explained in this verse also, that this Mahatattva, this understanding of how the Lord, with all the aggregate of the material ingredients, creates this material world. This can only be understood through the grace and the mercy of those devotees that do understand, that do have some realization, have realizations. And this is why this conversation with Maitreya and Vidura is so important in our lives, because when we hear this conversation, we hear how Maitreya explains this creation. And it's not just Maitreya and Vidura that are speaking about this creation. This creation is also spoken with Arjuna and Krishna. Krishna also explains in the Bhagavad Gita about the importance of understanding the Lord's creation. However, Vidura, he was qualified, and Arjuna, as for us, had to become qualified for our understanding. So Arjuna was given the special grace, the special mercy by the Lord himself. And Arjuna was not really qualified to hear this knowledge, although we know he's playing a role in this scenario, in this situation. He's playing this role of someone like us that's like confused about some duty that he has to perform. And in this, in trying to understand why he is to perform this duty, now he will be inundated with knowledge that's beyond his scope of understanding, beyond his capacity of understanding. And so Arjuna for us is another great personality to study in order to understand a little bit about the magnitude of the Lord, about how great Krishna is, how great the Lord is, that not just in our planetary systems, not just in our universe, but in all the universes that's been created. Krishna creates the material energy for every living entity that want to be separated from him. He creates this material energy. And now he explains within this material energy, there is some ingredients that's going to keep us all entangled. All of us, every single person is going to be entangled in this aspect of his material energy, unless of course, we get the mercy to meet someone that will give us some knowledge that's beyond what we understand. This is key. This is important. We need to be given that mercy to make this connection. So everyone on this call have been given that mercy. You've been given that mercy because you're hearing Srila Prabhupada's, from what you're hearing, what Srila Prabhupada has written. And so that mercy is coming simply by hearing. Simply by us hearing, we can start receiving the mercy. And so when Prabhupada now he's explaining, okay, you must understand. It's important for us to understand these modes of material nature, the modes of material nature that has us all entangled like a rope. He explains the mode of material nature is like a rope. And for those of you that may, I don't know, some of you may know or may not know. I know, however, I can't say I would know how to do this, how to make these knots, but there are different types of knots in the world, right? There's different types of knots that we can make with a rope. Does anybody know of any kind of a knot, like a different knot that you could make from a rope? Just checking.
There's a slip knot.
Yay.
There's different types of sailor's knots.
Yeah.
There are knots for hiking.
Yes. Great. Thank you, Mitravinda. Yeah, there's different kinds of knots. There's also like a loop knot. There's a hitches knot. You know, when you want to hitch something onto something else, there's a certain knot that we use. So yeah, there's different kinds of knots in the material world. And in terms of understanding a rope and how a rope can get knotted in many different ways, we are like that in this material world. We can get knotted in so many different ways. So this is why His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj says, different permutations and computations of the material existence of the material world. These knots can tie us up in so many different ways, and usually does, because we really don't have any control. We'd like to think we're in control. We think we're in control, but material nature has us tied up in knots. So these energies that is being spoken, Krishna's energy is now reflected in these three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And many of you here, you understand about these modes. It's simply because many of you here have been studying, Bhagavad Gita, studying SRIMAD Bhagavatam. However, just to help those that may be new on the call, just to give a little bit of an example or a little bit of an analogy to understand the material world, to understand the modes of nature in the material world. So if we consider examples of like transparent phenomena, things that such like air and water and clear glass, we will notice that light passes directly through them. If we look at water and we reflect the light on the water, it will just go through the water. And usually there's not much disturbance when that happens. If you just put the light on the water, you won't see much disturbance with the water usually. So this transparent light is like compared to, and this is an analogy, it's compared to Sattva Gun. Sattva Gun is like a person that's predominantly in this mode of goodness. And that Sattva Gun is reflecting the nature of the soul. It's reflecting our pure self. Not that it is our pure self. It's just helping us to reflect like light on water. Even though it's that nature, that Sattva Gun nature, is still filtered through our conditioning in the world. So even though this mode of goodness, it's a state of consciousness that connects us. It can connect us with the soul. It's important to remember, and I think Sahadev made some points about this yesterday. It's important to remember that this mode, although it's translucent in some way, it's still a part of this material world. It's still a part of this Mahatattva, still a part of all of these energies that, all this material permutations and computations is still a part of all of that. So we don't want to get distracted by that understanding. Yet, Srila Prabhupada says, until we can come to this mode of goodness, we cannot really understand this knowledge. We won't be able to fully understand this knowledge. So coming to the mode of goodness means coming to that state in consciousness where we are eager to learn more about what is beyond our understanding. And we're eager to participate in that, what is beyond our understanding. So a person that is in Sattva Gun, that is in this consciousness, they're very clear, they're light, they're harmonious, and they tend to be happy, and they are aware. They are aware that this world is not a home. They're aware that this is not my body. My body and my soul is different. They may have some awareness about this. They like to do good things in the world to help other people. They have that awareness. And in many cases, they try their best to be elevated in their consciousness. However, it's kind of limited. It's important as we're discussing this to remember that this mode of goodness is definitely not transcendental, because transcendental is what we shared earlier about the gopis and Krishna, those associates that are playing with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in a mood that they're recognizing that he's their hero. So people that's in the mode of goodness, they don't usually know that. They don't know who is the real hero. They don't have that understanding. So, however, they do have some understanding about being a good person and a caring person. And this is why Srila Prabhupada says, at least we need to develop those kinds of qualities in order to understand the mood of Krishna being our real hero. The other thing is the mode of passion, which Prabhupada speaks about in this purport. So we want to look at that. If you look at like plastics, right? Now they put plastics in the ocean everywhere. Everywhere you can find plastics, right? This is like become such, a topic of discussion in our lives right now. Just imagine in other yugas, people would talk about like gold and silver and diamond. Now we talk about plastics. So when we think about plastics or frosted glass, glass that has paint over it, and other objects like, like when light shines on these material, it sort of, it can't get through, right? The light can't get through. The light can't get through plastics. If you have a window that's painted, the light won't get through, right? Or if you have curtains that cover your window, the light won't get through. And so this is compared to like the mode of passion. Someone that is in this mode, that is really like kind of covered by not being able to see the light, they usually have a lot of longing, a lot of desires. They want to enjoy this world. And they'll do most of anything in order to enjoy this world. Many cases, they are the persons that they work very hard, and they're very connected or very attached to whatever it is that they're going to get from their work. So Prabhupada explains that as they're attached to the fruitive results, the results of working. So if somebody works, they go to work from 9 to 5 or 9 to whatever. They're attached to getting the money. They want to get paid for what they did. This kind of understanding, this vision, for understanding God, understanding the Supreme Lord, kind of gets covered, right? It's covered. And this is what Srila Prabhupada is helping us to understand about the modes. That in the very beginning, this is the mode that's pretty much covering this entire material world. This mode to want to be a controller, be the best at whatever it is. Not to say that us trying to be the best is not a good thing. Trying to be the best in order to please Krishna is different than trying to be the best, to be somebody that's spoken about in the material world. It's two different consciousness. So we want to understand this word, rajas, or passion. It means dust or like smoke. It all of it is like not letting the light come through. It's just coloring it. It's definitely like closing out the light. And so this is kind of important for us to know, to understand how these different modes affect us. You know, how much are we blocking the light of God? So how much are we blocking the entrance of this transcendental understanding, this transcendental knowledge? And the last one is the mode of passion. I'm sorry, the mode of ignorance. And this mode of ignorance is compared to something being totally covered. You just fully covered. And such person, as I said, the rajas is a little, it's covered. You can see maybe something a little bit, not so much, but darkness, totally covered. And this is exemplified in the Bhagavad Gita, and you could find this in the Bhagavad Gita, I believe in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Or the 17th, somewhere around there, we can understand a person that is exemplifying this mode is they're not interested in doing anything. Nothing excites them, nothing enthuses them. They want to sleep all the time. They're just kind of here. You know, if any of you have ever experienced, and I know as women, we experience this all the time. I think guys do too. I'm sure guys do. But if you've ever experienced a broken heart, when you have a broken heart, you know, from something in the material world, some guy just left or whatever, or some guy just whatever, you know, or vice versa, from a guy and the wife or the girlfriend just left, whatever it might be. There is some like a covering that comes. And for some people, they can't function. They just can't function. They can't get out of bed. They don't want to do anything. They don't care about anyone. That's like someone being temporarily in the mode of ignorance. Yeah. Thank you, Lauren. Yeah. It's a temporary condition though, because after some time we realize, right? Why am I, you know, letting myself just be depressed by the situation? And especially if someone is aspiring to be a devotee, especially if someone is reading Srila Prabhupada's books, they do start understanding, this is not who I am. This is just not who I am. So, you know, we get support, we get help to help us to come out of that condition. Well, there are people in the material world that are in that condition all the time, and they don't look for help, and they don't want help, and they just stay in that condition of being in that mode of ignorance, because they don't even know how to develop enthusiasm, because their heart is just so broken by whatever the situation may have been, the emotions, and that you can understand that by understanding the brain and understanding, you know, the emotions that are in our limbic system and the emotions that comes actually in this part of the brain, which is the amygdala, that makes us either fight or flight or freeze. So there's these parts of the brain that can teach us so much, right? In the material world to help us. This is science. We can learn from the science of what Krishna has created. Krishna created all this, and we can use it to our advantage and learn about that and realize, compassion mode activated, yay, my amygdala is just like surcharged with neurons that's just like keeping me in this depressed state. And this nerve, it's affecting my whole nervous system, right? And so we work with the vagus nerve. We can actually do exercises for the vagus nerve to help us. And this can help us to really understand and appreciate Srila Prabhupada's books, understand the knowledge about the Lord. So what's important? So the last point I want to make about these modes is that these modes can keep us, they do keep us all entangled. They keep us entangled in this world. But now is, why would Krishna create material world? Why did Krishna create Mahatattva with all of these different ingredients? And why he create the modes, these different modes that just keep us like in pain sometimes, you know, a lot of times. Well, there's a reason. There's a reason Krishna does this. And that's because he loves us. He loves us and he's calling us and he's saying, look, you don't really want to keep going through this kind of suffering. That's not what you want. That's not why you're in the world. You're not in the world to prove to anyone that you're great. You're not in the world to just be nice to other people and do good things to other people. You know, you're not in the world to just sleep and not be enthusiastic about anything in the world. That's not why you're here. That's not why we're here. He said, why we're here is to really develop a mood of wanting to be with him, splashing in water, in the, you know, enjoying with him. That's the reason why we're here. That's the reason we're in this world. And all of these things, all of these different elements that are created, and all of these different modes that are affecting us, it's only to bring us to this point of realizing, this is not me. What am I doing here? And I know most of us on this call have had that existential awareness at some point in our lives, right? I remember for me, it was when I got out of college. And I remember I was like, I had moved from one city in America, in California, to New York City. And I was kind of like, at that time, just being like, what am I doing? What is this life all about? I was with friends that were like musicians and, you know, actors. And at the same time, I was thinking, oh, this is nice. I love my friends, but there's gotta be something that's greater. That something must be better than this. And I remember one evening, actually, looking out of my window and looking at the stars in the sky in my New York apartment and just saying, there's got to be something that is better than this. There's got to be. And then the next day, just the very next day, one of my friends called me and said, I got somebody I want you to meet. And this person was like a drummer, somebody that was a musician, Said, I want you to meet this person. You're really gonna appreciate this person because he's a musician and he's, you know, really understanding things that you're asking questions about. Like you're thinking there's something greater or different in this that we're to experience in this world. Well, this person knows so much about that. And so I said, okay, let me meet that person. And then I met that person, and that person turned out to be someone that I was able to, you know, that taught me so many things about Krishna, and was able to, by the mercy of our spiritual master, that person and I came to Africa, you know, to teach the science of Krishna consciousness. So that was my existential moment, you know, that made me understand there's got to be something greater. And as soon as I called out, Krishna sent someone. Krishna sent someone. And Krishna sent it through a friend. The friend said, hey, hear from this person. So each of us have had an existential moment like that. That's why we're here. That's why we're in this call. That's why we're studying this scriptures, because we know, we understand there's something greater than these modes of material nature that entangle us in this material world. And so here we are now in our lives, and we're at this place of exploring this knowledge that we are receiving. And we're now understanding how to do things differently in our lives. That requires the spiritual knowledge. That requires hearing from these souls that have had the experience of transcending these different modes of material nature. And so I'm just going to read you a couple of verses that helps us to understand that from the Uddhava Gita of SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. So one of the verses is from the 11th canto, 11:25:6. 11:25:6. Saha, if you can pull that up. I love the service that you do, Sahadev. And I love this moment of pause, because that gives us an opportunity to reflect on what we've heard. Yes. So, my dear Uddhava, another great devotee, someone that's very dedicated to the Lord, the combination of all three modes is present in the mentality of I and mine. The ordinary transactions of this world, which are carried out through the agency of the mind, the objects of perception, the senses, and the vital airs of the physical body are also based on the combination of the modes. So if you go to the purport, I just want to read one thing. So this Srila Prabhupada explains, one completely absorbed in the mentality of being peaceful could not work in the material world. He would lack any impulse to perform activity. Similarly, one absorbed in lust must be blinded without at least a tinge of peacefulness or restraint. One overwhelmed with anger could not function properly in the material world without the mixture of other qualities. Okay. So this is to explain that the modes are not separate. The modes are all together, and us, we react in these modes at different times in different ways. So these are all part of what we are addressing and dealing with in this material world. This is all a part of why the spiritual master is so very important, to remind us, to help us, so that we can take responsibility for our own lives, because this life is precious. This life is so very precious. It's given to us in this material world, even though we go through some suffering. It's to help us to remember that we are part of a a much greater and much more glorious situation, much more glorious environment. We don't have to be worried about plastics. We don't have to be worried about all the different challenges that are here in the material world. Although it's not that, it's not that we totally ignore that this is happening, that these things are happening in the world. However, we always understand, we always have a consciousness that we're separate from this. And then there's one last verse I will read here. Saha, if you go back there to 11:25:32. So I'll just read these three verses, and then that's 32. So this is the 11th canto, which was actually translated by one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, His Grace Hirdananda Maharaj. So yes, Prabhu, we'll just read the translation. 32. And again, this is the conversation with Uddhava. Oh, gentle Uddhava, all these different phases of conditioned life arise from work, born of the modes of material nature. The living entity who conquers these modes, manifested from the mind, can dedicate himself to me by the process of devotional service, and thus attain pure love for me. The next one is 34. If you can go there real quickly. 34. Okay. So a wise sage, that's all of us on this call, free from all material association and unbewildered, should subdue his senses and worship me. He should conquer the modes of passion and ignorance by engaging himself only with things in the mode of goodness. So at least, like Prabhupada said, we need to come to the mode of goodness. And for those of you that are might get a little affected by this language of using only he. From what I have understood, that when we see this word, subdue his or he, this is referring in general to humanity, everyone, women, men, children, everyone. And one more verse, Prabhu, sorry, 35. Yes. Okay, so here's then being fixed in devotional service, the sage should also conquer the material modes of goodness by indifference towards the modes. Thus, pacified within his mind, the spirit soul freed from the modes of nature gives up the very cause of his conditioned life and attains me. This verse can only be understood if we imbibe that verse that we started out with in the class. That's good, Saha, thank you. Chinada Pisa Hishana. It's important for us to have a humble state of mind to be able to enter into understanding these modes of material nature, to be able to understanding all of this creation and how it's going on, to become humble like a blade of grass, to become humble like a tree. That is only possible by engaging in devotional service. The two primary aspects of devotional service is to hear and to chant the holy names of the Lord. So by coming to these classes every day, we get to hear, and by calling on God's name, and I believe Mother Rukmini spoke quite a bit on calling on God's name and how important the impact of calling on God's name on our consciousness, and that will help us to really achieve peace, the peace that Krishna speaks about to Arjuna, Bhaktaram Yagyatapasam, that peace of really aligning ourselves with the Supreme Lord, with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the purpose of understanding this verse. Prabhupada explains that there's so many ways that people arrange for us to forget to even want to understand this knowledge. And, that Prabhupada refers to this as advancement of human civilization, that keeps us distracted, right? That keeps us the way that people today are saying to us that we are advancing as a civilization. By now, what's coming to us is like A1, right? Or all the different aspects of what's going on in the material world. Prabhupada explains this is all just a distraction. It's a distraction in the brain to keep us away from understanding the sweet, sweet activities and pastimes of the Lord, which we are actually a part of, just we've forgotten. So now, by hearing these messages of the Lord, we get to remember. We get to remember, I'm in this creation only to remember Krishna. Thank you so much. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you, devotees.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mother VRAJALILA, for such wonderful, sweet deliberation on the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. Now, dear devotees, if anyone may have question, comments, realization you would want to share, please, you may indicate by using the hand emoji or your natural hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to speak.
And I like realizations because I'm here to learn.
Okay. All right. So the speaker is saying she likes realization. So on that note, I would say my realization is that particularly His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, his major focus of giving his love or sharing his love with people in general is this particular verse. Trinad Suni, Trinad Ape Suni China, Tara Ape Sahishuna, Amani Namanadina, Tretani Asadahari. Maharaj always quotes this verse, emphasizing the importance of we being humble. But from my realization, I have also come to know that sometimes some of us try to practice this humility. And to me, the practicing of this humility makes us become somewhat foolish in the sense that what we need to do, actions we need to take, things we need to embark on, we tell ourselves that I have to be humble, so I don't have to take any action. And so I would like you to help me and probably other devotees who may have also had this realization that sometimes devotees act in such a way that we cannot expect the Lord himself to do anything and everything without we as individuals attempting to do anything. We just look up to Krishna. All right, somebody is insulting my Gurudev. I stand and I look up in the sky, looking at what the Lord is going to do in this situation. Somebody is beating up my god brother, my god sister, and I have the opportunity to come in to help. But I'm very humble. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to take any action. Please, if you may help me understand what humility means and how it has to be applied. Hare Krishna.
Hari Hari. Okay. Thank you, Saha. So let's look at what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says about humility. He says that humility is to become free from envy and having compassion for others without any sense of how one may be benefited, appreciated by others, in the mood of always wanting to give all respect to others. So sometimes we may, in correcting someone or in bringing things to someone's attention that they may not be aware of, or they may be aware and they just really not wanting to accept, that's actually a way of showing respect to those persons, is to be able to help with awareness. Now, how we do it is a different subject, right? But according to Bhaktisiddhanta, he says free from envy. So if we're not approaching another person because we're envious of them or envious of whatever their situation may be, we have compassion because we have maybe some awareness of something they may not have. So we're wanting to bring that to their awareness. And we do that in a way that they can hear, knowing that sometimes people won't hear. Just that's the nature of human beings. And we may just need to give that time, because in time, people will suffer and they will at some point start hearing. So this is what Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj is saying. So for us internally first, I always say, first check in with ourselves. So check in with ourselves. Am I doing this out of envy of another person? Am I doing it out of envy of the situation? Am I doing it out of envy of anything that I might want that I'm not getting? Is it, check in with ourselves first. After checking with ourselves, then have that mood of compassion to help that person, right? And that might mean bringing something to someone's awareness to show them respect. Like, I respect you so much that I need to bring this to your awareness. Best if we can do that in a loving and caring way. That's compassion. We're not always expert at doing that. I know I'm not. And so I'm always having to check in again with myself before I speak. So usually before I speak, I try to pause. I pause and I really try to pray. Like Lord Brahma, he prayed in this verse. Krishna's Srila Prabhupada is mentioning about Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva and their roles as caregivers. Well, one of Brahma's realization, with all the responsibilities that he had to create all of us, he realized he had to pray to Krishna because, he could easily become affected by the mode of passion. He's the creator of the mode of passion. Sometimes he get affected by it. So this prayer before we speak can be very, very helpful. Lord Shiva also, he prayed to the Lord. I mean, there's a whole, Shiva, Gita, Shiva, there's a whole selection of prayers in the 4th canto of SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, where Shiva is praying to Krishna. And then the thing, Chinada Peace and Sunishena, being completely free from materialistic pride. So that's something to reflect on within ourselves. Why am I doing this? Is this out of ego? Is that envy? What is the motivating force? Why I'm addressing whatever it is that I'm addressing? And at the same time, while we do that, this verse helps us to remember ourselves as, and it's kind of, like a Chinta Beta Beta Tattva, simultaneously one and different. It's like we're wanting to become free from materialistic pride. We're wanting to consider ourselves lower and more worthless than insignificant blade of grass that people trample on. We're wanting to get to that consciousness, but it's all related to materialistic activity. We need to remember that. When it's spiritual, when it's moving more into the realm of transcendence, then that pride won't be there in whatever it is that we need to do. We may still need to address the situation, but it may mean that we're addressing it from a place of goodness, which doesn't involve so much of the pride. Tarora Pisa Hishina. So if somebody has this consciousness, Tarora Pisa Hishina, a person will understand, being more tolerant than a tree. What does that really mean? Well, without your good help, I could not have done anything. Without your good help, I could not have done anything. So practically, this movement of spreading Krishna consciousness we know that this is only possible by the mercy of the spiritual master. So if we're acting in the mood of the spiritual master, that is also a part of being more tolerant than a tree. Because we know that without the mercy of the spiritual master, without the help of the spiritual master, we can't address anything. We can't expose anything. We can't let people know respectfully that they may be doing something that's inappropriate, that's not proper, according to the Guru Sadhu Sastra. And it's not like we're robots. It's not Krishna. We're not robots in this mature world. Yes, we are affected by these different modes, and we need to be conscious. Am I acting out of ignorance or passion or goodness even? And most of us will be acting out of one of those modes. This mood of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is for when we start entering into this realm of transcendence. And Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, 1 out of, thousands will actually get this experience. So this is to help us to recognize how insignificant that we are. And yeah, amanina, pridelessness, one who does not expect personal honor. Even when we do something, we're not expecting that we should get some honor from it. We might address something, but we're doing it because we're doing it as a representative of our spiritual master, out of respect, for ourselves and for those persons that we're addressing or that situation. Yeah, Amana Dana, giving respect to others in accordance with their respective position. So yeah, it's important to understand what is a person's relationship with the Lord, and how do we give respect to them in that mood. You know, we've seen in the materialistic world, everybody gets affected by the mode of passion. It's very easy for people to fall from even transcendence in this material world. So these things we need to be aware of. No one is exempt. And that's Kirtaniya Sada Hari, of course, always calling on Krishna's name. So pride, envy, respect, these are all things we need to reflect on when we're going to address any situation, whatever it may be. And always remember, you know, that we need to be our foundation in addressing anything. We need to really reflect within ourselves. Am I chanting? Am I really trying to chant in a way that's not offensive? You know, these are all like self-reflection. So this verse is really for us to self-reflect, this verse of Chinadapi, because we're in those worlds of passion, ignorance, and goodness, and we always will need to address them. But this is the foundation of how we address them.
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you so much for that elaborate answer to my question cum realization. Thank you so much. So we go to His Grace Shima Varaha Vanachari. Please, Shima Varaha.
Hare Krishna. Varaha Prabhu. Hare Krishna to you. Hare Krishna to you. Hare Krishna Devaraha Prabhu. Hare Krishna
to you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, my Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Prabhupada, all glories to Gurudev. Thank you very much for the wonderful discourse. My question is in line with, or maybe realization also, in line with Sahadev's Prabhu. In fact, it was going on in my mind, and it's like, you know, you just spoke my mind somehow. But the aspect I want to address, the fact that actually Krishna consciousness is not a pacifist movement, right? We are not pacifist. Otherwise, Bhagavad Gita would not have been spoken on the battlefield. That's one. And then the second one is the fact that the scriptures ask us to be humble. But at the same time, scriptures, all scriptures, you know, whether Vedic, whether Abrahamic, also tell us not to bow down to injustice. We should not bow down to injustice because God himself is justice. So God does not want us to bow down to injustice. So my last part of the realization, which you may comment on, is the fact that Bhishma Dev is a devotee. Arjun is a devotee. But Arjun has to shoot very painful arrows to bring Bhishma Dev down. And Krishna has to assist the Pandavas to bring their guru down. So, I mean, this is where humility could have been very much a disturbing factor. This is my guru. This is my grandfather. I cannot do anything. But Krishna says, come on, go ahead and do it because they represent injustice. So I'm just sharing this realization to buttress what Sayadaw Prabhu said when he said that sometimes we become inactive, thinking that Krishna has to do things or Krishna has to arrange things. But I think from the humility, sermon is there to caution us not to be offensive. But when it comes to right and wrong, Scripture says that we should not bow down to injustice. And that is what Bhagavad Gita is about from my own point of view. So Mataji, that's my realization. You can help me better.
Well, it's your realization. Thank you. I appreciate, that's why I like realizations or reflections, because then that gives us opportunities to see how deep we're going with understanding what we've been reading. And absolutely, I agree that Krishna consciousness is not a pacifist movement in the sense that we are to act. It's a movement based on action. The action is based on love. So if you remember in that pastime, even though Arjuna was going to, he was shooting arrows, and even though he, had to, in some ways you can say, kill him, Bhishma Dev, or at least injure him. We know that he was doing that with love, and he was also doing that with instruction from Krishna. And we know that at the end, when Bhishma is lying on the bed of arrows, all of the Pandavas came in such a mood of lamentation and sadness, and Krishna himself personally came. So both things are there, right? Our philosophies, achintya bheda bheda tattva, simultaneously one and different, as you know. So it's the removal of the envy, the removal of the pride, the removal of the disrespect that we as conditioned souls need to work on. Because in our conditioned state, usually when we address situations, we're motivated by those things, envy and, lack of respect. This was not the case of Arjuna and Bhishma. This was, and even if we take this to another level, as we know, they're playing a role. And of course, their role is to help teach us. But at the end of the day, we can understand everything that Arjuna did, everything in a fight that he had was always in a mood of caring, always. And that's what this verse is teaching us. Become free from pride and become free from envy. And to be honest, this is not possible without the mercy of the spiritual master, as you know. So whenever we as conditioned soul want to address any situation that we know might cause some, disturbance, let's pray. Let's pray. Pray to the Guru to direct us, to do it in a way that can bring the greater good, bring the best situation. That situation with Bhishma and Arjuna brought the greater good for everyone. Well, for those persons that Krishna was supporting. I don't know, Brahapu. That's my understanding, my realization.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mataji. We got the point. I don't want to, overbeat the issue, but we see Arjun, doing this with respect, Arjun, with compassion, but he had to fight anyway. But then there are other cases, there are other ones that is not done with respect. And Krishna supported it. That is Bhima killing Dushashana. Yeah. And Krishna supported, and Bhima killed him in a very Raksha manner. Tore his heart open, drank his blood, and Krishna supported it. Just because Krishna does not want us to bow down to injustice. So sometimes, it can also be in a hard way. It may not be gentle manner or Bhima style or Arjun style. All Hare Krishna.
Yes, this is true. This is true. I mean, this is there again as pastimes for us to learn from, and at the same time, what is the end results of these pastimes? What does it help us to understand? I think that's the essence. But yeah, Vraja is a fact. If Krishna is supporting something, if Guru is supporting something, then we can't go wrong. They're the ones that Krishna is God. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If he supports it, however it's done, then all right, it's coming from the Lord himself.
All right, so
Sri
we go to Mother Sri Upanishad, please. You may mute. The Transcendental Upanishad. Devi.
Hare Krishna.
Hey, Krishna.
Wonderful, wonderful Vaishnavas,
Haribol.
Vaishnavis. Haribol, Rajalila, you are just so wonderful. It appears that when you're speaking about the Mahatattva, I was reading Krishna book last night and I said, wow, she's talking about what I just read about. So in the Krishna book, chapter 90, the summary description of Lord Krishna's pastimes, Arjuna is returning from the spiritual kingdom, which he was able to visit personally with Krishna. I said, wow. He was so much astonished that he thought to himself that although he was only an ordinary living entity, by the grace of Krishna, it had been possible for him to see the spiritual world. That is just amazing. I will let everyone else read the rest of that. I just wanted to start it off. But it speaks about the Mahatattva and what the purpose is. And it's just very, very wonderful. And thank you so very much for sharing it again. Also, I just wanted to, oh, wow, you just brought it up. Haribo, everyone, Mother Rajalila, maybe you want to read that for everyone again, because you were just speaking about it. And I also wanted to say happy birthday to everyone, Sriman Varaha Prabhu and Mother Rajalila and Mitravinda. I just wanted to say it personally because it has more effect like that for me. So Haribo, Hare Krishna, thank you for being in my lives. Haribo.
Hare Krishna. Sri Upanishad Devi King Day. Hare Krishna.
I also want to say that it was Sri Upanishad's birthday also in August. And we wish you happy birthday, Sri Upanishad, and we miss you so much.
Wow. August brought in some special souls to us.
So I know this summary might be a little long.
Yeah. I mean, we can read at our own time, at our own leisure time. But I just put it up so the devotees may remember the reference.
And you can always join our WhatsApp group that's reading 4 pages. I can send it to you. 4 pages of Krishna book every day. And all you do on our WhatsApp group is just write your reflection. Like
Chai.
Hare Krishna. We go to Dr. Hassan, please. You may unmute. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mother
Ready,
Krishna,
ready.
of essences, all glory to Gurudev, all glory to the Prabhupada, and all glory to you, to all the Assami devotees. Thank you for this very beautiful and wonderful class. I have this question. My question is, in Quran, it explains that when God wants to create something, he just used this word, kun fayakun. That means be and it is. And explain more about the creation. But when we come to the platform of Krishna consciousness, it explains it to more details and more beautiful, and it's so great and it blows your mind. That other time, it's great. Sade Prabhu, he put an animation of Vedic planetarium, and I was watching it, and I was thinking so very deep how beautiful and how great Krishna is. So my questions comes in this question. For instance, when I have interaction with other faiths, they used to say that the Krishna consciousness, they are idol worshippers. And I used to say that they know God more than you. What they know about God, you know little about that. And I begin to realize that I'm also a devotee. So my question is, if you begin to feel this in your heart that, because I feel it's injustice for somebody to say that Hare Krishna people are idol worshippers. So if you're beginning to feel that Hare Krishna people know God more than the other faith, is it kind of, you're beginning to feel like ego or pride or something like that? So this is my question for somebody to feel this way, because it's injustice for somebody to say that, and you have to let the person know that no, what you're saying is wrong. Because Hare Krishna people, I used to say that we know God more than what the other people know. I'm saying this because of where I'm coming from. So if you feel something like this, are you, is it ego or pride or something like that? If it's pride or ego, how do I deal with situation like this in my heart? Hare Krishna.
Bhakta Hassan, you're just so sincere. So wonderful. So such a sincere devotee. Yeah, you know, the Islamic tradition is very beautiful. So is the Christian tradition. And Krishna, you know, is so kind, is so very kind, that he makes himself available in different ways.
In the temple, we don't worship Sai Baba, that's why. But the pictures, I will come and see how to take them.
Haribo?
Sorry, man. I think Abu does not know that it's
Yeah,
Mike.
yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So, yeah, as I was sharing that all the traditions that's on the planet is very wonderful because they all come from Krishna. We're hearing this in the Mahatattva. Everything is created by Krishna. Right? However, the fact that there are people on the planet that want to know Krishna in a certain way, and Krishna provides that through the different tradition that they're following, that's something for us to have more compassion for those persons than to be disturbed with them. Because yes, it's factual that Krishna, in understanding the creation, if we understand it from a Vedic paradigm, we will get much deeper explanations, and depending on us, we can have deeper realizations. However, Bhakta Hassan, what I have seen is to have the knowledge, to know the knowledge, to receive the knowledge, and to act on the knowledge is two different things. So personally, I lived in Nigeria, I lived in Ghana, and most of my time in Nigeria, myself and other devotees that I was with there, we spent with Muslims. Actually, our driver was a Muslim, Tahiro. I still remember Tahiro's name today. This is, I don't know, 40 years later. And what was very beautiful about Tahiro is that the tradition of Islam, he was very sincere, and he practiced 5 times, you know, prayers. He did his salat with this, you know, on his beads, he prayed, he did 99 names of Allah. He was extremely regulated. He was extremely enthusiastic about following his path, the way that he could. And he was just so exemplary that we never wanted to get him. We never wanted to not have another driver. We always wanted Tahiro because he inspired us, you know, for us to practice our path. So it's factual that yes, from the Vedic paradigm, we will have more clear understanding. And what that is to do to help for us is to help us to become, again, this verse, more compassionate. Chinara pisu sunichena. Just be more compassionate to those persons and know that, you know, even when even when you might meet someone that might not be as humble as Tahiro or as sincere as Tahiro, that somehow, you know, they're trying to follow their path somehow. And that's what Srila Prabhupada said. He said, I'm not trying to make everybody practice Krishna consciousness. I just want people to become more sincere in the path that they're following. So I'm really grateful for your question, because it shows you have this genuine humility of not want to offend another person. And especially you've grown with more understanding from that tradition. So it's like going back to your people and really like doing, praying. Prayer is so important that you can touch their hearts. And maybe you can't tell them all about creation, but maybe something that they can align with, that they can understand. But now you have a service. You have a service to, go back and help. Somehow you somehow were able to get this information, or this knowledge. Now you are being called to act on it. And one of the ways that Lord Chaitanya asked us to act on it is to share it with others, not to push them away where they don't want to hear from us. When we came to Africa, most of the people were Christians. And, they were very serious Christians also. And they would challenge us all the time with their belief. But now look at Africa, look at West Africa. It's not because we were trying to fight with them with their tradition. We just embraced them for where they were. And by that loving embrace, they became themselves more sincere with their own tradition. And then some of them decided to become devotees. Some of the persons that are devotees there today came from those different traditions. So it's all about respect, being respectful to others. At the same time, you can be, you don't want to be self-righteous, but you can be spiritually righteous in understanding that you do have more knowledge. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Mother. Thank you so much for your question. Yes, I try as much as possible not to. I tried to explain some things to them, but not in a way that they will be offended, because I know that if you use a sharp word, they will not going to listen to what you are saying. But I try to make them to tell them in a way that just put Islam aside and put everything aside and just do your research. But what I'm trying to say is that if in your heart you feel that you know God more than them, or what they know about God, you begin to feel that you know more than them, what they are trying to explain about God. If you feel that in your heart, is it ego or pride? That is what I want to I want to understand, because sometimes I feel that.
Well, yeah, Bhakta Hassan, we're all affected by ego and pride until we become pure. So I don't know. That's maybe, maybe there's some ego or some pride there. I mean, the whole material creation in terms of the modes of material nature is all about false ego. And so false ego is one of the most difficult layers for us to overcome. However, I think it's Kavikanapur Prabhu, Kavikanapur that kind of spoke, that have cultivated you. Is that if I remember correctly, Bhakta Hassan? I know.
Yeah, Jana
Chakshus. Oh, Jana Chakshus. Okay. Well, I remember Kavikanapur has a relationship with someone also that he was developing. Anyway, think of what Jana Chakshu Prabhu did in order to open your heart, to bring you closer.
Oh, okay.
Because you seem like you were a very sincere practitioner. And somehow you were a sincere practitioner of your tradition. And Jana Chakshus Prabhu, he was able to embrace you and open your heart. What did he do? So
yes, yes, he attracted me with his humbleness. Upon all the knowledge he has, he was very, very, very humble. So thank you. Thank you so much. I think you are giving me the right answer, not the great answer I need to hear. So thank you so much.
My experience of you is that you're humble. However, we're all in this together, trying to pray for mercy to get out of this entanglement of the modes of material nature. all of us. So all of us are affected by false ego in some way. All of us are affected by pride. All of us are affected by being disrespectful. We can only just call out, Krishna, help me, help me.
Thank you so
Okay.
much, Mother. Thank you so much. And on this note, I want to ask permission to leave because I have to be somewhere. So,
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo. I love your
Haribo.
shirt, by the way. I love your shirt. It's probably not
Thank you
appropriate.
so much.
I'm like an
Thank
old
you
lady.
so much,
So I can't
Mother.
say that.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Well, thank you so much, Mother. And we have Utpala's hand, but I just wanted to say something because actually that was like going to be my first realization I wanted to share, and I shared something else, is that like you were reading about Krishna, that Krishna is not even directly involved with this creation. And in this world, almost anyone who talks about God talks about God, the creator.
Yeah.
So we have come a very, very long way of knowing Krishna in this particular lifetime. And therefore, I believe that as devotees, we should recognize how far we have come, how fortunate we are, and to one whom much is given, much is also expected of him. Therefore, if we've been given this much wealth of knowledge and opportunities, we don't have to sit on it, because if we do not know what we have, if we do not know the value of what we have, how are we going to be able to use it and help ourselves and help others? So my understanding and response to Dr. Hassan's concern, feeling that we know or we have something higher, there is nothing wrong in that. If, like Mother, you were saying, if we use the knowledge and the opportunity we've had to help ourselves and help others, there is nothing wrong in a rich man understanding that he is richer than that person. But if he uses his riches in a negative way, then there is a problem. But if he knows he's rich and therefore he can use those riches to help himself and help others and actually does that, then there is help. Because if we do not know who we are and what we are meant for, then we will not be able to perform as we should. Because as devotees, I believe and I've understood that our main purpose is to free the pains, the ignorance, the agonies people are going through. And if we do not recognize that we have the tools to help ourselves and help others, and therefore we're going to use the tools, and then we'll become, excuse to say, useless. So that's just what I wanted to add. Thank you, Hare Krishna. So
All right, Sahadev, I just want to share with you. I think we're saying the same thing.
Yes.
However, in the Bible, it says it's very difficult, because you use this analogy, it's very difficult for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. So a person that's rich always think that they're poor in consciousness. So that's the difference.
Yes. Hare Krishna, thank you. So Utpala Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Mother.
Ready.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Dev. All glories to you. All glories to assemble Vaishnavas. It's a question I want to ask, but it's about myself. So the thing is that in this present life, I have the good fortune of coming in contact with Krishna consciousness. My bigger fortune is in coming in contact with great Vaishnavas like you and others. And the greatest fortune is coming in contact with my Guru there, His Holiness Bhaktisiddhanta Swami. But the problem is that this good fortune is like not being fully maximized in the sense that the scriptures that are given to us, I'm not able to grasp them the way I would have loved to. Even a chapter of Bhagavad Gita, I am not able to memorize, even though I went through Bhakti Shastri and the rest. The SRIMAD Bhagavatam, not even a chapter I'm able to memorize. Chaitanya Charitamrita and other scriptures. As far as sadhana is concerned, just struggling, battling like anything. So this being the case, what is my fate, or what will be my fate in this present life? Although Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita was telling Arjuna that what is the use of all this detailed information, with a little fragment of myself, I pervade the entire universe. But yet the knowledge was left for us. The knowledge was given. The books are there, which means they are important. So sadhana, I'm just struggling like anything. Maha mantra, just Namabas, I'm chanting so far. So my question is, what's my fate and what would be your advice to me? Hare Krishna, so that I can become at least a better human being.
My dear Upala Prabhu, I think you have realized Krishna consciousness much more than me, because you have shown by your example of writing about your spiritual master. For those of you that may not know, Utpala Prabhu has written a book, a beautiful book, about his reflections with Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, our revered spiritual master, his activities with devotees. You've brought light to so many people from that book. So my dear Prabhu, my reflection is simply, there's a little mantra that I say to myself, and I know that you're being humble. Sometimes even when I try to be humble, I say this mantra also, and I sing it to myself. Confidence, confidence, confidence every time I get ready to do something. So like when we're getting ready to do this class today, I just kept saying that mantra, confidence, because I'm getting on this African yatra where many of the devotees here are real scholars. And I know I'm not a scholar. I don't think I quoted 1 or 2 verses. This is why I read the verses. So, but you know, what I've understood from our revered spiritual master, this knowledge is only given by mercy, and is given in the heart. And your heart have spoken to all of us, Prabhu. And I thank you for the services that you do, really, sincerely. And even, you know, I was reading Lord Brahma, there's a verse, I can't remember the, I like this verse, I don't remember, it's in the 10th canto, and it's in Brahma's prayers, it's a part of his prayers. Maybe somebody here can remind me which verse it is, but I know the verse starts with Latenu Kampam Shishamikshimano. That's the first line of the verse. I learned the first line.
That's 10:14:8.
10:14:8. Thank you so much. It is such a beautiful verse. Latenu Kampam Shishamikshimano Bujana Evatma Kritam Vipakam. Ridvagva Buhir Varidhan Namoste Jiveta Yo Mukta Pade Sadayabak. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisance with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. So in my experience of you, Prabhu, this is, I see you in this verse. patiently waiting.
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Utpala Prabhu, you have something to say, you may unmute. You are muted. Well, he's still muted. Well, I share this. I share the same concern. Okay, go ahead, please.
Sorry, I didn't know it was muted. So I'm thinking that the reason is because I am covered with the mode of ignorance, maybe with a little bit of mode of passion. I think that's why. So how to get over this is my concern. Like Mother has been talking about the three modes of nature and so on. And I'm thinking I am really engrossed in the mode of ignorance and passion. So, and it's a moderation.
Just keep chanting, just keep chanting, just keep chanting.
Thank you, Mother.
And also, Prabhu, I do want to share this one thing, which I try not to get into in these classes, but sometimes when we think we're stuck in some area, first we want to check firstly with our chanting. See, are we maybe committing offense to devotees, or what's going on in terms of us and calling on the Lord and Lord's holy name. Secondly, I do suggest like doing some self-reflection, some introspection, with ourselves in terms of what needs may I not be getting, what needs may not be met in my life right now. For example, we have physical needs, we have emotional needs, we have cognitive needs, we have social needs, we have spiritual needs. So, and they're all apart, all together, all of it is together. So if we check in with ourselves, introspect, am I needing something physically that maybe I'm not getting? Am I needing something emotionally I'm not getting? Cognitively, intellectually, I'm not getting. Socially, I'm not getting. All these things impact our spiritual life. So please, this is separate. These are workshops that I teach that's kind of related to the material world, how to live in the material world as a spiritual being.
Hare Krishna, Mother, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mother VRAJALILA, for the answer you did with Utpala Prabhu. I used to have the same concerns because I also do not have the brain to memorize. And I really appreciate the devotees when they preach it and they can quote. I appreciate it, I love it, but that is not how I learn. And I do not try to kill myself over that. So I don't think with Utpala Prabhu, you should be too much worried about that, because even though it is good to be able to memorize, but better than that is to understand what you are memorizing and applying them. If everybody memorizes and it's not, we have some people in India, I understand, who can quote SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM from Canto 1 to Canto 12, but they are not Krishna Bhaktis. So what is the use? So being able to memorize is okay, but higher than that is to be a devotee. And we're all trying to be devotees. So which is the highest thing? Hare Krishna.
I wanted to share with Paula, just because Sahadev said that, and I'm reflecting what Sahadev said. Our Guru Maharaj told me personally, and I share that with everyone. Always share what you learn. Share what you learn. Whatever you learn, just share it. And so for me, I always challenge myself to do classes even when I don't feel qualified at all. So my request to you, Utpala Prabhu, is please do SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM class. Give one of these classes. Challenge yourself.
Hare Krishna.
We are not hearing you, Prabhu. You are muted. Unmute yourself.
I'm sorry. When I just explained that I have nothing up here and nothing to share. So how can I give Bhagavatam class?
You can, because Krishna is in your heart and you're not giving it. Krishna is, Gurudev is using you as an instrument. Krishna's remembrance and forgetfulness. Krishna will let you remember what you need to remember, and devotees are kind. We all want to hear. So the next time I'm scheduled to give class, please put Utpala Prabhu
Wow.
my place, and I will come to the class.
I will come and read La Prabhupada's purport. It's okay. I take it as Guru's instructions.
Hare Krishna. That is how it goes. We got to be careful what we ask for. This is what you get.
Oh my God. So
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mother.
Hare
Krishna, all the devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
What's the name? Kavikadapur, please. Go ahead.
Oh, am I raising my hand? Not me.
Oh, Salika?
Yes, it's me. Hare Krishna.
Oh, okay. What is your lotus face?
Hey,
Don't mind me. Don't mind me.
Having me too.
Yeah, I got to move. So thank you very much, Mother Vraj, for this beautiful class. Anyway, I'm not surprised because the words of the mother is always very pleasing to the heart. And I'm always enthralled because when you speak, you know, People were just saying something now. There are people who have the ability, capacity to be able to memorize and plan classes. But one thing I think I'm learning from you is that I don't know whether it's actually preparation or the way I'm looking at it. I always see you coming out with your heart. And because you sharing your heart, it connects to the other hearts. I love this. Gurudev used to exhibit this quality, and I'm always amazed. When Gurudev come to give class, sometimes you just take a note at one point, and when you start speaking, you realize, even you as a listener will see that this person was not reading a prepared text. He's just speaking his art out. And that kind of have a way of connecting with other arts. So I thank you very much for this beautiful sharing today. And
thank you.
It's on that note, for me today, one thing that I took away from this particular class is something you said. I've been doing that of recent, and I was wondering whether I'm doing the right thing. And that thing that I'm doing is that I kind of try to relate everything to myself. Whatever I'm trying to do, I try to relate it to myself, and I wonder how I feel it, how I see it, how it connects to me. And sometimes I start thinking whether I'm being too much of conscious of myself. So when you were sharing on the Trinal Appears Suneshina, and you were mentioning that the starting point is always to reflect on oneself. So I like the way you share that, and I think it helps me a lot. So I think that's one takeaway for me in this class. And I think that there is nothing like coming to Bhagavatam class. Thank you so much, Mother. And I wanted to touch it briefly before I stop on Prabhu Utpalas. I became envious of him somehow because this is someone who is expressing so much of incapacity, so much of lack of quality. But I'm amazed. As he was speaking, he was just saying things that even I aspire to be even able to do that. And that is what, to be able to express myself sincerely and share my thoughts. I don't even know whether I've got to Namabas, talk less of chanting the holy name at all. So such level of sharing sincerely from the heart is amazing. And it reflects how devotees are very, very unique in their way. And I think Krishna just inspired him to speak. And I appreciate the way you answered the question, Mother Vraj. And I think I will facilitate your instruction to make sure that in the next month, Upala Prabhu will give us a class, and I'll be looking forward to that class. I will do everything to make sure I'm in the class too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I will be looking, because I will come to that class personally. I listen on YouTube. I will come personally with Upala Prabhu. Yes, thank you so much. And you know, the thing is, vulnerability and transparency is so minimized in our institution. And the fact is, our power comes from being vulnerable and from being transparent, especially being vulnerable. So thank you for that, Prabhu. Thank you. And really, as far as Gurudev just reading something and speaking, Guru Maharaj, you know, he lived this philosophy. He lived it. It was him. It wasn't, he didn't, you know, it's kind, like you said, coming from the heart. Gurudev was fully connected to the words of, I don't even want to say to the words. He was connected to the activity of loving Krishna, fully connected.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mother.
Well, it is said, one who lives by the truth does not need to remember anything.
Exactly.
And so,
that's a good one.
Yeah. I have a question, but we've gone too long into the class, so I'm not going to ask about, you've created some sort of nice question. I have to ask whoever is going to be speaking tomorrow. Because whoever is going to speak tomorrow,
Babu, Mother is not complaining, except if Mother wants to go.
we've kept it for 2 hours.
No, you know, we get the opportunity to get Mothers Association maybe once in Blue Moon, you know, once in a month. So she's not complaining.
You know, Kavi is so kind. Kavi, what's your realization? What's your takeaway, Kavi, from this class? What's your takeaway?
My God, Mother. Okay, thank you very much, Mother. When you were talking about humility, I was just reflecting how much I need to work on myself, because I'm not very humble. You know, I'm not humble at all. I'm a very straightforward person. I pick on people also sometimes, which is very offensive on my side. So I think in terms of humility, I need to work on myself seriously, and I will pray to Krishna to give me humble heart. You know, because if somebody is humble, you will not see the others' fault. So we see others' fault because we are proud of ourselves. So if you are humble, you will not see others' fault, which brings the quote you made from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and other acharyas like that. So I think I need to work on myself on that humility, because that is the beginning of devotional service. So just like Salika Prabhu was saying, you know, to chant the only name, even on the Nama bus, you know, one has to be humble. So Nama Parad is what we are still chanting. So I'm praying at your Lotus Feet, Mother, please, the little drop of love you have gotten from Bhaktisiddhanta Swami Maharaj, because I know Maharaj is ocean of love. You can drop some for me also, so that we can be able to, you know, take full shelter of my Guru Maharaj, and you know, and also appreciate other devotees. Hare Krishna, Mother. Thank you.
Thank you, Kavi. Thank you so much, Prabhu. I'm always inspired hearing from you. Yeah. Thank you. I always listen to your class. You always have so much love that you bring to the devotees.
He's a very handsome boy.
Prabhuji, thank you very much, Mother. Hare Krishna, Ma.
Your handsomeness is blessed, is a blessing because you are really trying to serve your spiritual master, and you're doing the best that you can to, you know, engage others in devotional service. So we appreciate your handsomeness.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mother, for explaining clearly the handsomeness, what Prabhu really meant, not the other one I'm thinking.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So on this note, we're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute, and we all chant the loudest, sweetest Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation to our dearest big sister, mother, anything, everything other than our enemy.
Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare. Rama, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Namo Namaha.
Thank you so much.
Mother VRAJALILA Devi ki.
Thank you for your encouragement, Sahadev Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare